I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I haven't even made a solid video in a good while. The video I put out earlier on how I discovered anime and my Rin vs Denji video were supposed to have came out last year, but unfortunately I was on holiday, so they ended up coming out 6 months late, and the views definitely demonstrated to me why that wasn't a good idea. My hiatus exciters are getting much worse. I know that it might not appear so to you guys, but I'm always consistently working on new video ideas and scripts behind the scenes, even when you're going through dry seasons with slow uploads from me. So I've been thinking about it, and I don't think my current schedule of uploading a new video every 3 months or so is gonna cut it anymore, so I'm currently trying to script and upload 3 videos to put out in a single month. First of which is this fun little versus battle video to stir up some debate between the fan base of these two anime-inspired web novels, one of which I've already reviewed on this channel before. In fact, it's my very first video, so be sure to peek that right after this one, if you're curious about any of these two series, of course. Okay, who's stronger, Mikaru Hyroyuki from Super Society, his first big arc, or Marko Itsuguya from Mysterious Destiny's first big arc, both of which consist of around 25 chapters, so I think it's somewhat fair, although Super Society has way more chapters than Mysterious Destiny due to the fact that it came out first, so it's technically ending soon at around 77 chapters. It goes without saying that there will be spoilers in this video up to the ending of the first big arc of this series, so if you were already reading them or want to read them yourself, then you can click the links in the description and quickly binge them before seeing who would be the winner of this matchup. Jumping into the scaling, Marko and the other characters from his series are on that point as showing multiple building level feats, so I think it'd be fair to say post-training Marko is about building plus level, with hacks such as flight, flame manipulation, ice and water manipulation, minor mind reading, and the ability to understand and speak to animals, the ability to somewhat regenerate from life-threatening wounds, and of course his primary ability, his psychic powers. As for speed, post-training Marko couldn't escape Nikki, the perverted alien girl in the woods, and needed a car or van to lose her, but after his training to be able to not get one shot by his father, he's about subsonic since he fought against his previous acquaintances who could react to a handgun's bullet with their abilities, although they didn't exactly physically dodge it. Pretty easy and cut and dry scaling if I do say so myself. However, that's not the limit to his growth, since the alien Nikki is somewhat over the speed of sound, since she did what a bullet would do to Marko's father Dante if it had the ability to throw hands, and Dante was able to not only match that later on, but vaguely surpass that level after consuming the mysterious object that fell from the sky, which gifted almost everyone up until that point in the series with their powers demonstrated. Because I'm scaling a novel, it's impossible for me to do pixel scaling or anything fancy to calculate exact numbers, and I refuse to just use statements since the author seems to like throwing around light speed scaling and planetary statements because of his character that uses gravity. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. So with generous estimates, that doesn't contradict anything I've read up until that point, I'd say Berserker Marko, who was able to briefly match his father, could reach around Mach 3 and has from neighborhood level to city level attack capabilities at his peak. But is that enough for the dedicated hater of freaks to defeat Super Society's main character? Mikaru Hyroyuki doesn't really seem to be very strong in the novels up until that point, because the author tends to primarily focus on the plot and psychology of the characters, So I'll be using the webtoon adaptation as a reference point to scale him from, since it clearly states as early as in the battle with Amiya the Slick, while he was severely bloody and beaten, about to pass out, that his punch could still break the sound barrier, making him Mach 1.5 easily, although this seems to contradict the novel scaling, since it stated that Amiya was about as fast as a car, 200 miles per hour to be exact. But assuming that the characters will be upscaled with the webtoon adaptation, then I should be able to extrapolate that Mikaru, when he went up against the 4-star elite with the cloak, is about Mach 13, since he was able to track down a spear from out of the Earth's atmosphere, and he jumped in the air to catch it, proving that he can meet its travel speed, since he wasn't immediately pulled down to the earth by the mere force generated by its entry speed. I'm obviously lowballing him since the novel is vague and the webtoon hasn't reached that far as of yet. So these are generous estimates that have been lowballed, with the fact kept in mind that in both versions his martial arts attacks are said to be faster than the human eye can see. So Mach 1 to Mach 3 would be the safest bet if you truly believe that the novel is the true canon. As for AP or attack potency, he starts off by easily destroying walls, and it is shown that his classmates can easily replicate such feats without much effort, making it very much not that impressive, and an obvious lowball since he is most likely suppressing himself because he isn't supposed to be using his martial arts in public. Nothing makes this more clear than when he inexplicably punches the elite off the Academy Island with a single attack, although this was during a power-up and it subsequently broke most of his bones. Lowballing his large building plus level, but if we're extremely generous, it'd be neighborhood plus level easily, since his spear prevents him from breaking his bones while making his attacks vaguely stronger. With all the scaling laid out, Marko is obviously stronger, but Mikaru is chaotically faster. So calling it a blitz would be an understatement. Marko's elemental abilities are already useless, since Mikaru would just punch through them all with relative ease, since he doesn't scale too far below Marko. Mind reading is pointless, since he'd only be using it to not immediately die from being blitzed and hit by enough attacks to overwhelm him. Calling animals is obviously not gonna work, since they'd all just inevitably come. Further, that Mikaru would blitz and one-shot in seconds. Flight wouldn't give much of an advantage, since Mikaru's martial arts allows him to pull off super jumps. Marko's regeneration is similar to Mikaru's super healing ability when he has his marks active, so they'd kinda just even out, except for the fact that Mikaru already created a solution for someone who would seemingly infinitely regenerate, which was to punch them really, really hard on repeat until they just wish they were dead. Marko's level of psychic abilities literally allows someone who can amp themselves up and create objects to give him a run for his money. Not to mention that his psychic grasp seems to be an invisible physical thing that travels, so Mikaru could either blitz it or destroy it to free himself from any unwanted manipulation. Not to mention that Marko's berserk form has a timer, so Mikaru would need to evade him for long enough before he'd fall down to the ground, being at around large building level, which would undoubtedly be one-shotted by Mikaru, since his marks doesn't seem to have any time limit, but only spreads the more serious the battle gets. This situation would get even worse if I were to consider the later chapters where Mikaru's sensei introduction caused the inner workings of the martial arts to be fully explained, making any direct hit a way to temporarily stun Marko. Plus it kinda hints that his clap technique causes any active abilities to go haywire. So if Marko is flying, he'd fall and his own attacks would immediately damage him as well. Plus, if Mikaru would ever manage to close the distance, then his mere speed and hand-to-hand combat would just render Marko unable to do anything other than taking more hits, and his healing would just eventually cause him to run out of energy. And if I'm to go there, then when Mikaru would go into his battle, he'd already know all of Marko's abilities, since if he loses even once, he'd simply use real life to go back with prep time and proceed to absolutely reveal the definition of a one-sided fight when he goes all out straight from the start and dodges anything and everything he knows is a life-threatening attack. This isn't close, it's just another example of the fact that no matter how many crazy abilities you have, an insane physical fighter could somehow overcome and defeat you, like how Saitama, Mash, and Toji defeats all their enemies. Toji proves this from JJK, since he was able to almost kill Gojo and Geto, two of the strongest sorcerers, in a single afternoon after casually relaxing and gambling to try to multiply his money instead of training to achieve a short victory. Like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.